So the 1 year, the 13 years have come to an end, coming to an end. And the 14th year, they have to live incognito. So now they've gotten together, the 6 of them, the Pandavas and Draupadi. They all got together and they would sit around after dinner and like, where should we go? What should we do? How will we disguise ourselves? And so this became an interesting mood change. So for 13 years, they're in the forest, it's tapas. Then Arjuna went off and did a yatra and tapas. Then Yudhishthira did his tapas. And then it's kind of like, waiting. But now there was like this project that they had to do. And, Gurudev would often say this when the first chapter of the Gita, Arjuna says, I'll go and become a bhikshu. Bhikshu means a renunciate. And Gurudev would say that Arjuna Swadharma, if he did go and live in the forest, he'll just cut down all the trees because Rajas, he needs something to do. He won't be able to just sit and meditate. And this is where you see how correct Gurudev was, because here for these 13 years where they had nothing to do, they were going crazy. And Arjuna had to figure out something to do. So he went off and did his yatra, and he went off and he did his tapas, and he collected weapons. He couldn't just sit for 13 years. He was busy collecting weapons. He was busy getting Shiva's darshan. He was busy getting... He was very, very busy. He went to Indralok for 5 years. He learned to dance. He learned to do hairstyles. He couldn't just sit. And so in that first chapter of the Gita, where he suddenly says, I don't need the kingdom, I'll just go sit in the forest. And it's not true, because actually we can see for 13 years when they did have to sit in the forest, they couldn't do it. Yudhishthira was the only one that was okay, but like Bhim was also very restless sitting in the forest, not doing. And Bhim's constant argument to Yudhishthira was like, we are not Brahmanas, we are Kshatriyas, we're not supposed to be living like this. Nakula and Sahadev, not so bad. Sahadev especially was very meditative, and he was quiet by nature, so he was okay. Did I say this last week? In colloquial language, you got called a Sahadev if you were quiet and aloof and didn't talk so much. So he was okay in the forest. He was like that in the palace also. And Nakula also seems to be on the quieter side. So but now you can see that there's this, the mood in the totally different amongst all of them now, because now they have to figure out where they're going to stay and what they're going to do and how they're going to hide. And so they go to this kingdom, Virat. They go to Virat's kingdom. And when they go around, like, how is Arjuna going to hide? Because Arjuna was probably the most well-known. It would be like, who is really famous in today's world that everyone would just know? Who's that famous? I don't know her, so she can't be that famous. Prince William. Yeah, maybe. Obama's. Yeah, Obama's would be that famous that just everybody would know them. Oprah would be that famous. So Arjuna was like that. Just everybody would have known him. Not only if you were an archer, you'd know him. Like, there's some sports people who are super famous, but I don't know who they are, because it's not, I wouldn't recognize Beckham. I know the name. Because, I live in my own world. Lots of aunties wouldn't know Beckham, but everybody would know Obama. So Arjuna was like that there wasn't a single person who wouldn't recognize Arjuna. And maybe even if they didn't recognize his face, like I had mentioned to you, they would have recognized the marks on his back. He had a X on his back because he would pull the arrows from both hands, and he would pull it with such speed that it created these scabs on his back. So Arjuna says, and this is where, again, what we think is a curse in life can be a greatest boon. So Urvashi had cursed him to be a eunuch. I don't know what's the political correct translation for eunuch in today's world, so I'm going to stick to eunuch. And as a eunuch, he wore sari blouses. Can't see his back. He was totally covered. His hair was grown long, and he would dance. So Arjuna said, I'm sorted because the curse will last for a year. I'm dressed in dancing clothes, women's clothes, which are fully covered, so nobody will recognize me. And no one would ever think of looking for Arjuna as a dance teacher. Like that just would never, ever cross anyone's mind. It would be the furthest thing from people's imagination. And for that 1 year, where Arjuna was teaching dance to Uttara, he had a ball. Like when you read about it, he was so happy. One, she was a beautiful student, very gentle, nice young lady, and he had so much affection for her. It was a very paternal kind of affection because we see that Arjuna has very distinct, he's very respectful of these kind of relationships. We know he can be flirtatious, but we know he cannot be also. He can be very, very sincere and respectful. But the thing is, it was something to do. One, it was something that was so light-hearted, right? For 13 years, you're planning for the war, you're watching Draupadi suffer, you're watching Yudhishthira suffer, you're watching, and now suddenly you're in the court and you just have to teach dance, and there's this young girl, and it was such a relief to the intensity of what has been going on. And he thoroughly enjoyed dance. And I guess if you look at warrior, and you're looking at body and stretching and lines, like you have to hold the arrow at in the right angle, and your hand has to be straight. Dance has those same principles. So it's still body awareness and body movement and alignments, and so he totally enjoyed it. He completely enjoyed this 1 year of teaching dance to Uttara. And then everybody was most concerned about Yudhishthira, including Bhim. And this is where you see, I think most of these 13 years, you see Bhim being romantic, being in a rash, being critical. He was critical very often, unfortunately. But here, when Yudhishthira has to choose where he has to now, or how to hide, Bhim's one of the first that says, you were a king. We cannot see you be anything other than the king. And so this is interesting with siblings, right? Like you taunt and you taunt and you taunt and you taunt and you taunt. And then when it comes to like somebody else is going to look down at you, or you have to go through a difficult situation, you're suddenly there in like full force, like, no, like nobody else is allowed to pick on you, just me. There's this very protective side of Bhim comes out for Yudhishthira, but all of them, like Arjuna had already taken a vow. I don't know if I've mentioned this vow. Arjuna's love for Yudhishthira is so much that he said, whoever spills a drop of Yudhishthira's blood, so if they cause the blood to fall on the floor, I don't know why he was so specific in his, what was it? A vow? He would kill that person. So if even one blood of Yudhishthira's fell on the floor, whoever caused it to fall, Arjuna had vowed to kill that person. Like this, like nobody can touch you. So big your eyes became. What if it was an accident? Well, the reason I'm specifying this is because something's going to happen. And when Yudhishthira's blood is about to fall on the floor, Draupadi catches it and holds it in her hand. It's like, it cannot touch the floor. If it touches the floor, Arjuna will kill this person. But that kind of love that Arjuna had for Yudhishthira, that really, like, he's the king, and I will protect him to this extent, that not even one drop of blood should fall, caused by somebody else, right? If his nose bleeds or something, then you can't do anything. But if somebody else causes his blood to fall on the floor, so then what are you going to do, Yudhishthira? Yudhishthira has the cheekiest smile on his face. The entire Mahabharata, all 10,000 verses, Yudhishthira does not smile the way he smiles now. This is the only time you see such a cute, cheeky smile on Yudhishthira's face. He said, I'm going to play dice. Everybody's like, now you know why it was such a cheeky smile on his face. And everybody's like, but I don't think I told you all this part of the story. There was one of the rishis that came in between was a king previous to that, and he was very apt at playing dice, and he had given Yudhishthira lessons on how to play dice, and at the end, when he was leaving, he gave Yudhishthira a boon that Yudhishthira will never lose ever again. Bit late. It would have been nice if Yudhishthira had this boon before he had to play Shakuni, but then you wouldn't have Mahabharata war, so all is well, all is well the way it is, as it should be, etc., etc. But so now Yudhishthira has become extremely proficient in playing dice, which is another beautiful thing about Yudhishthira. I know some of y'all think I praise Yudhishthira too much, but that's what to do. He's the hero of the Mahabharata. I have to praise him. I have to do justice to the scriptures. It was his flaw, and he made sure he overcame it. What was his flaw? That he couldn't play well. He was never addicted. Of course, while the game of dice was playing and when he played the five brothers and Draupadi, I'm sure there was a lot of emotions that features, and he wasn't at his best for sure. We don't make excuses for that. But there were so many other factors, right? He was trying to avoid the war. He was being respectful to Dhritarashtra. He knew that this was inevitable. All of that was also at play. But he was really bad at playing dice. All Shakuni's dice were loaded. Shakuni's brothers' bones were used to make the dice. So even if Yudhishthira was good at playing dice, he wouldn't have won, right? Because it was a definite no-win situation. But the truth of the matter is, Yudhishthira wasn't good at playing dice. Just made Shakuni's life easier. Or task rather easier. So even when he sees that shortcoming in him, even though he didn't go out to learn it, when that rishi who was a king, who was apt at playing dice, offered to teach him, Yudhishthira learned. Of course, sitting in the forest, what else to do? Might as well learn. And then he had gotten this boon that he would never lose. And that's why this cheeky smile on his face. He said, because nobody will expect it to be me, because they wouldn't be expecting me to be playing dice, and they wouldn't be expecting me to be winning. But now that I've mastered it, I will play dice. But that can't be a job, right? You can't do that for 1 year, play dice. That can't be a job. So Yudhishthira already thought about it. So they had chosen this kingdom of Virat. And Yudhishthira said, I will go to the king and I will say, I will be your minister. And this is such a fascinating part of the Mahabharata, because, the Pandavas, the rest of them, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadev, they won't let Yudhishthira bow down to anyone. Say, no. For them, Yudhishthira is the father because he's eldest, but also, his purity of his being, that, so virtuous, so right, so loving, so affectionate, they couldn't bear. And he should be king, and he's not being given that title, and we've had to do all of that, even though he was the one who played the dice and we are in exile. It doesn't matter. He should be king. Like, that's so, there's no wavering in that. Like, it doesn't matter. There's no thought, oh, he deserves it. Or there's no thought that, we suffering, let him also suffer with us. No, we can suffer. Yudhishthira should not have to bow down to anyone. That the Pandavas had that incredible loyalty and respect to Yudhishthira. So Yudhishthira goes to King Virat and walks into the court. And when you walk into a king's court, you're supposed to bow down. And Yudhishthira doesn't, because the Pandavas are all watching him, and he knows if they will not, they would not be able to sleep if he does. And so Virat looks at him and says, I know you haven't bowed down, but for some reason, I don't feel bad. I feel as though I'm meeting another king. This is where you see all the Devata's blessings that have been given to the Pandavas. Like, usually your head can be chopped off for not being respectful to the king in the court. It was that, right? They had that level of the way they ruled in those kingdoms, in that era. Not just in India, even in the West. If you speak against the king, it was off with his head. Yeah, we've seen it, we've read it, we've not seen it, sorry, we've read it, heard it in history books. So Yudhishthira goes into the palace, meets the king Virat, says, I will be your minister. And so as a minister, he doesn't have to do menial work. And usually minister means you're discussing with the king. And a lot of the times nothing's happening. It's peaceful. Virat didn't have too many enemies. They were a small kingdom, not much to do. It was like Bai Haath Se Khel for Yudhishthira, which basically in English translates to, can do it with your left hand with eyes closed because it's so easy, because he's done so much more. So they had a lot of free time and they played dice in their free time. So Virat did not suspect Yudhishthira to be Yudhishthira because he always won. But his advice as a minister was amazing. And so Virat valued him as a minister. And Yudhishthira was very, he by nature, Yudhishthira is very gentle, respectful. So not that he's bowing down, but just his very demeanor is, you don't feel he's being arrogant or, like usually a king, with the way you said, you think, oh, he thinks very much about, but Yudhishthira never had that. So there was no issue with Virat feeling that Yudhishthira was being pretentious or arrogant or anything. He was, his nature made him very, like Virat felt, yeah, he's a good minister, that he doesn't bow down, but he can. Like there was that, so Yudhishthira was fixed. Virat's kingdom, that's what he was going to do. So while they're discussing, then everybody looks at Bhim, or Yudhishthira rather. Yudhishthira is the one that's the most concerned, and says, Bhim, how will we hide you? Like Arjuna's going to be wearing sari blouses and dancing, so nobody will suspect, but you're so big. Like, how to hide you? Really, he was big. And Bhim said, I've been planning this for a long time. I have decided I will become a cook in the palace kitchen, because nobody would understand how much I eat. But if I'm in the kitchen, nobody can see and I can just happily eat. And these 13 years I've been starving, for this 1 year now, I will just eat as much as I want. Bhim's the cutest character in the Mahabharata. Like really, it's so cute. All I want to do is eat. I'll go stay in the kitchen. That will be my hiding. Also, in a palace kitchen, usually they have big pots. And so it's actually quite heavy to carry all those things. So for Beam, it would be easy. And apparently he knew how to cook. I don't know when he learned that, but he's quite good at it. And he again really enjoys. All five of them really enjoy this 1 year. Like I said, it's a relief from the intensity of the previous years, but also, it was just the six of them. Arjuna went off, and then it was just the five of them for that period of time. Saints and sages came, lived with them. Dyomna was with them the whole time. So actually, it was the seven of them. Krishna came, Krishna left. Others came, others left. But essentially, it was just a lot of each other. And I guess COVID, we all know how that feels. It wasn't even 13 years for us. Most of us just had 13 months of, okay, enough. Of course, you love the person, and that's not an issue. But now that they're in Virat's palace, there's just so many more people. There's so much more happening. There's so many more interactions. Kind of like a good break for each of them. So Beam not having, having his space, and they all lived separately because they can't live together, then that's a dead giveaway of who they are. So while they were in exile, Beam lived in the servants' quarters with the other cooks and the kitchen staff and all of that. And so, you're having different conversations. And we take that so much for granted. When we meet different people and you have different conversations, it provides intellectual stimulation, it really enriches our lives. And so Beam too really enjoys this 1 year in exile, and only one small incident goes wrong. Not so small, but we'll get to it. And Beam's the cause of it. Had to be Beam. Who else would muck up? Beam only. Beam's the one that's impulsive. And then so sweetly, Yudhishthira says, Nakula, my dear child, how will we hide your beauty? Like how to hide Beam's bigness, but how to hide Nakula's beauty? And Nakula said, I have thought about it. He would work in the stables with the horses. I don't know if I've mentioned this. Nakula was incredibly skilled with horses. And it doesn't sound like much, but if you think about in that era, horses were wealth, elephants were wealth, cows were wealth. So to be skilled with horses is like today banking. No, I'm not exaggerating. It's a very, very useful thing. And you have to remember during the war, there were so many horses. Each army rode on horses. The chariots were pulled by horses. And Nakula could almost talk to them. He knew how to treat them. He knew how to train them. He knew how to coax them into doing things. And it was a great help during the battle. Because horses is the soldiers are depending on the horses in battle. So if somebody is skilled with horses, it's such an asset to have. But unlike bankers loving money, Nakula loving horses, horses are such gentle creatures and they're so affectionate. Horses actually return affection when shown to them, or can initiate the affection. So fulfilling, right? This 1 year while Nakula is with the horses, so fulfilling. As you're working with a creature that is so giving. Horses are actually very, very giving. Next to cows, they're probably most sattvic animals that you can find. Cows are definitely highly sattvic, and horses too, highly, highly sattvic. In fact, a lot of treatments for physio, osteos get used on horses first to see how they react to it. Because they're so sensitive, it's easier to see the efficiency of the technique on a horse. And so Nakula said he'd live in the stables with the horses. And Sahadev lived with the elephants. Cows, of course, cows. Yes, how could I forget the cows? Because the description given is that when he put on the cow herd outfit, he looked just like Krishna. When Krishna was a cowherd in Vrindavan. And so interesting that Sahadev looks like Krishna. I mean, they are the same family, so they might be resemblance, or maybe it's just the cowherd outfit that made people think he looked like Krishna. But everyone, the minute he put on the cowherd outfit, he looks like Krishna. So again, same like with Nakula, Sahadev working with cows. Cows are affectionate, peaceful. It's so calming to be with them. Yeah. They just won't do anything fast. Have you seen cows on the streets in India? When they're crossing, they take their time. And then when you with them, like, what's the point of hurrying? You will also slow down. Yeah, because you're looking after them. You can't be bullying them. You're supposed to be looking after them. So actually that 1 year for Nicholas Sahadev being with the cows and the horses, very therapeutic, very healing of all the wounds that they had to face in the last 13 years. So Nakula had done, Sahadev done, Bhim done, Arjuna done, Yudhishthira done. We know how they are hiding during the exile. What was left was Draupadi. So everyone's greatest concern was that Sahadev's beauty was going to be hard to hide, and Draupadi's beauty is hard to hide. Imagine how beautiful Draupadi was, that one look at her and the guy is besotted. We see that with Jayadratha. Jayadratha, even though brother-in-law hadn't seen Draupadi, because the women were kept in different palaces. Also, Draupadi deliberately never went out in public very often. That's why at the game of dice, when she's dragged into the court, she says, after my Swayambar, this is the first time I'm in public, and for this reason. So the concern was, Draupadi needed to be hidden, literally hidden. It's interesting when we see Draupadi, because so stunning, like really so stunning. And people pray for good looks. You see that you should be careful what you pray for. Really. Like, we assume it's a good thing. So Draupadi says she would work for the queen as a maid. And when she goes to the queen, she says she worked for Draupadi and she knew 100 different hairstyles. I was thinking, does 100 different hairstyles even exist? Yeah, they do. I guess you can follow Instagram and find them. But Draupadi knew them without Instagram. 100. In her resume, that's what she's written, 100 different hairstyles. She knew how to drape the sari in 12 different ways. She knew how to, and she had dressed Draupadi. So the queen was intrigued that this person was so proficient. And the queen said, I'll only hire you on condition that you never leave my inner chambers. Draupadi thought, perfect. Which means a man would never see her. She would never leave the queen's inner chambers. Because when maids work for the queen, you're asked to run errands, go pick up this, go pick up that, but Draupadi couldn't. Because the condition the queen put on her was, you will never leave my inner chambers. The king should never see you. So actually all the Pandavas and Draupadi were extremely relieved that this was the queen's condition. And she did well. She really was so proficient in what would we call it today? Finishing school, beauty, wedding, when those people who go dress the bride, huh? Stylist, but not just hair, clothes, also everything. I know people hire them when they're getting married. She would have been very proficient at that, but she didn't do it for that profession, huh? She did it as because she herself was a queen and she didn't want to rely on anyone else. So, like I said, this 1 year goes really, really well. Draupadi is relieved. She's in the palace. She's surrounded by people. She's surrounded by all the things she's familiar with, clothes and makeup and the chitter chatter of ashram happenings and fashion. And it's like a relief, right? Imagine Draupadi 13 years in the forest with only men. Finally, another woman to talk to. It would be a relief. Just any gender, right? Even if a man was with women for like what an extended period of time and then you meet another man, it's a relief. It's different, basically a different conversation, a different kind of rapport, a different kind of interaction, which is always refreshing. When we do something slightly different, it's always refreshing. That's the whole point of holiday and weekend. We're supposed to do something different and refresh ourselves. So all goes well until the queen's brother, what's his name, comes to visit. So brother comes to visit sister and he goes into the inner chamber to see his sister. Like going into your sister's room, no big deal. Big deal. Draupadi is there. One look at Draupadi. And he tells us he wants her. I really can't understand how good looking she must have been. That only one look and the guy is so besotted. Bus, you have to marry me. You leave my sister now. You come with me. I'm a maid. I can't marry you. You were prince. No, it was nothing doing. You have to come. But of course, Draupadi won't go. And she says, I'm actually married to a yaksha and the yaksha won't allow me to come. And he said, I'll fight the yaksha. Like, how good looking is Draupadi? These men don't take no for answer. At least he didn't force himself. What was my point? People pray so much for certain things, like beauty. It made Draupadi's life difficult. Yeah. It really didn't make her life easy. This guy, while they're in exile, and then Jayadratha before that, and she's hardly in public. If she was in public more, then there would even be more of these things. In some versions, they say Karna also desired her. I haven't seen traces of that in the Mahabharata. I don't know where that idea came from. Creative license from some writer, but it's become popularized. And please know it's not in actual Mahabharata. Karna was not besotted with Draupadi. I mean, everybody thought she was good looking. There's no man that didn't think she was good looking because apparently she really was. But not that he was in love with her. We assume something is what would be amazing. We do this with a lot of things. We assume that will be so amazing. If I'm so good looking, my life would be so amazing. No. Good looking people have their own difficulties. Somebody who's not good looking has their own difficulties. Somebody who's good looking have their own difficulties. I'm sure it has its perks, but it has its difficulties. We assume somebody who's really wealthy, then they have the life. Being wealthy has its own difficulties. Yeah. People living in countries that where life is a little bit harder, like India or mainland or so many, then they think moving to America, Australia, life will be amazing. It has its own difficulties. Now that you go there and suddenly everything's so amazing. We have this real, the grass is greener on the other side notion in our head. The number of people who will tell me everyone else's life is great. I'm really wondering whose life is so great. But people really think, you know, they so rich, their life is great. They so good looking, their life is great. They tall, their life is great. They thin, what problems could they possibly have? They thin. Plenty problems. Thin is only one aspect of life. They healthy, they have good health, their life is fine. I led this one joke, which I have loved. The grass is greener on the other side because it's fake. We have fake grass now, right? It looks very green. So anyway, we know what the idiom means. The grass is not greener. Just from where we're standing, we think everybody else's life is better than our lives. But it's not true. Nobody's life is better. Everybody's life has their fair share of problems. They might have different problems from you, but they have their fair share of problems. Poor Nakula couldn't hide. He had to sleep in the stables because he was so good looking. Good looking people have problems. And Draupadi couldn't go out in public without somebody wanting to sleep with her, which is very terrible. And it really, I think even how you'd feel, right? If that's all people wanted from you. It wouldn't feel nice. You'd feel icky that that's all people wanted from you. So Draupadi said to herself, if I go to Yudhishthira, he'll say we cannot break our exile. He'll try and find a way to solve this problem without me getting justice. Because the other thing, you know, when you feel violated, anger, you want justice. So Draupadi goes straight to Bhim and says, he's asked me to come meet him in his room at night. Do something. So Bhim says, tell him to come to, there was some hall in the palace. Palaces have so many rooms. The one far away room that would be quiet and nobody really much goes there. Bhim said, tell him to come to that room and he'll wait for him there. But of course, she didn't go to that room. Bhim went to that room. So when he comes, Bhim puts his arms out to hug. Can't see, it's dark, blanket, this, that. Bhim literally crushes him in his hands. That's how strong Bhim is. Bhim has to hug you too tight, you die. I'm not even exaggerating. That's how he was killed. Killed by hug. No, it can't be called a hug. His Bhim crushed his bones with his bare hands. Who is this? The queen's brother. That's going to get noticed. The minute Yudhishthira hears the next morning that the queen's brother was found in this deserted room, crushed, his bones are crushed, Yudhishthira thinks, Bhim. Why, Bhim, why? We in hiding. Why can't you just hide? Draupadi hadn't told Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadev. Draupadi told only Bhim. Rumors, gossip, palace gossip is amazing. Fastest way news can travel is gossip. Word reaches Hastinapur, somebody was crushed, their bones were crushed. Immediately, Duryodhana sits up and says, that's Bhim. Where did it happen? That's where they're hiding. There's nobody else that can crush somebody's bones. Nobody else has that kind of strength. Okay, we pause here. We go to, this is a horrible part of the Mahabharata. You would think the war was the most horrible part of the Mahabharata. No, there's a few other horrible parts of the Mahabharata. So I shall keep it brief because it's really sad. I know you'll already all look sad. I built it up to be sad. No, it is sad. Karna, who is called Radeya, in the entire Mahabharata, he is only ever referred to as Radeya up until this incident. After this incident, his name changes to become Karna, but I've used his name to be Karna just for ease of communication and consistency. Just like Draupadi's name in the Mahabharata is called Krishna, but I haven't used that because it's ease of communication and consistency. So Radeya, because his love for his mother and his mother's love for him. Karna has a dream. In his dream, Surya Devata comes to him. And Surya Devata says, you have taken a vow that every morning after doing your Surya Namaskar, you give in charity, and whatever is asked of you, you give. Tomorrow morning, Indra will come to you, and Indra will ask you for your kavacha and your kundala. Please do not give it to him. This bit's really heartbreaking. Karna replies, in this entire world, only my mother has loved me. Who are you that loves me enough to care, to come say this? So hungry he was for love. Although his mother and father really loved him, and he knows how much his mother loved him, why would he still be so hungry for love? It's because of that feeling of being abandoned. Even though I really, really, totally, completely feel for him, I'm going to stress that we have to heal our wounds. We may have been abandoned, but we have to heal those wounds in us. We may have been betrayed, all of us. All of us at one point in our life or the other would have been betrayed by life itself or by a particular person. We have to find ways to heal our wounds. It's part of our spiritual journey. Even though we can really relate to the pain that another person feels when they have those wounds. And so, like I said, it's a terribly sad, really does, you really do feel like for somebody to say, no, who are you that loves me? Because nobody has ever loved me. You really feel how that feeling of being abandonment would have been etched in his being. And so Surya Devata says, I am Surya Devata. And you know, Karna's entire life, he has loved Surya Devata. He doesn't know why. We know. We know that Surya Devata is his father, and that's why he loved him. But Karna didn't know. He just loved. Like he'd see the sun and he'd get happy. And his chosen tapas was Gayatri Mantra, Surya, Sandhya Vandana, to the sun. So the amount of joy that Surya Devata has come to him in a dream, not in person. The Devatas can do that. They can enter dreams and communicate through dreams. And then when you hear things like this, people will say they dreamt of so and so and so and so. Don't enter. They don't come so easily. There has to be purpose for them to come. They're not faltu to just come into all our dreams. So Imagine how much he loves Surya. I'm telling you, he loves Surya Devata so much. Surya Devata is telling him, don't give your Kavacha and Kundala. And Karna says, I can't do that. Or rather, he says, I won't do that. I will still give. And Surya Devata says, but it's Indra coming. And he's doing it because with your Kavacha and Kundala, you are invincible. But when the war happens, without your Kavacha and Kundala, you can be killed. So please don't give it. And you were born with this special Kavacha and Kundala, and it was given to you by someone who loves you dearly, and they wouldn't want you to give it. Surya Devata is the one that gave it. The Kavacha is made out of sunlight. That's why it looks golden. Okay. Surya Devata put that Kavacha on Karna as a baby, and it's grown with him. So it's actually another layer of skin. For Karna, it's effectively another layer of skin. Yeah. And the Kundala earrings, and that's also grown with him. It was not the way we wear earrings. It was actually attached to his ears. It was attached to his skin. And so Surya Devata explains that what they're asking for is that you become vulnerable. This armor, this kavacha, it's an armor, right? Kavacha is literally a shield. It's impenetrable. No weapon can go through it. And then Surya Devata says, what you want the most is to be able to defeat Arjuna. If you have your Kavacha and Kundala, there is a possibility. He doesn't say you will, because remember now Arjuna has so many divine weapons. There's a possibility you can beat Arjuna. Without your Kavacha and Kundala, you will not be able to defeat Arjuna. He says it in that many words. You would think this is enough for Karna to say, done, I won't give it. Karna says, my whole life, I have wanted attention and recognition. When I became good at archery, people are not convinced I am better than Arjuna. But people have praised me for my charity, because whatever he gave, whenever, any morning, whatever was asked of him, he gave. And so the name he got was Dhanavir. So Veer means courage. There's different types of courage. Ranavir is to be physically courageous. Tyagavir, the ability to renounce. Jnanavir, the ability to have knowledge. And Dhanavir is the ability to give in charity. And it takes courage to be able to give. Even now when we're doing Diwali cleaning and you take out something, will I need it? Should I really give it away? No, maybe I'll need it. Put it back. Or maybe I'm not going to need it. Maybe I just really like it. Take it out to give away. No, I really like it. Haven't used it in 3 years. No, COVID, put it back. We find so hard to give. Yeah. We find it hard to give things we're not using. Imagine things that are essential for our livelihood, for our well-being. So he deserves this name. Karna deserves this name. There's a but. I wish there wasn't. I wish I could just say Karna was incredibly generous and that was his glory. He himself tells Surya Devata, I choose to have fame over life. So I would rather die giving up my kavacha and kundala and remain famous as Dhanavir than keep my kavacha and kundala and lose that name. So let's go back to what charity is. You know, Karna himself knows what charity is. So I'll continue in the story. So Karna, Surya Devata leaves very sad. Karna knows what's going to happen. Next morning, sure enough, after his Sandhya Vandan is done, a Brahmana comes in front of him, says, I've heard you give alms to whoever asks, and you give whatever they ask. Karna smiles, knowing what he's going to ask, and says, what would you like? He says, your kavacha and kundala. Karna specifies, the kavacha is attached to my skin. You're asking me to give you my skin. The Brahmana says, yes, I know. I asked for your kavacha and kundala. And then Karna says, I know who you are. I know you are Indra. I also know you have come because of Arjuna. I want to be very clear. You asking me to give you my life. Without the kavacha and kundala, I become very vulnerable. At which point Indra wavers. Like it becomes really hard for Indra to now ask for the kavacha and kundala. So why does Indra continue to ask for the kavacha and kundala? So when Arjuna came back from Indralok, Indra came with Arjuna back to hand over Arjuna back to the Pandavas, and Indra had met Yudhishthira. Arjuna was hugging Bhim, Nakula, Sahadev, and Indra and Yudhishthira had this conversation. Yudhishthira's greatest fear was Karna beating Arjuna in the war. Even though now actually Arjuna has done so much tapas, has so many divine weapons, that incident that had happened in that graduation ceremony where Karna walked in and kind of took over everything, and it wasn't just, you know, losing the war that was Yudhishthira's concern. Yudhishthira's love for his brothers was really like father for child. It was just nothing should happen to Arjuna. So now who Yudhishthira is talking to? Indra, who's actually Arjuna's father. And so Indra assures Yudhishthira that Arjuna will win. So he says, I'll make sure. I'll do whatever it takes. And so Indra is asking for the kavacha and kundala because of the promise he made to Yudhishthira, to put Yudhishthira's mind at ease. How much the devatas have favored the Pandavas is very, very, very evident. But there's also a backstory in the Ramayana when the devatas came as amshas to earth. Surya's amsha was Sugriv and Indra's amsha was Bali. They were brothers, monkeys. Both of them were monkeys in the war. And Sugriv kills Bali. While Ramchandraji kills Bali, but on Sugriv's instigation. So Surya's son kills Indra's son. Sugriv kills Bali. So Indra didn't like that. This time when Vishnu took avatar as Krishna, again, Surya came as Amsha as Karna and Indra came as Amsha as Arjuna. Indra was like, this time you're not killing my son. I'm making sure my son wins this time. I don't know if that's true. I've heard it being said, and it's cute and it's very human nature. I don't know if it's true though, because when you read this scene in the Mahabharata, it doesn't sound like Indra's petty. He's asked for the Kavacha and Kundala for Yudhishthira's peace of mind, not even because he's the father of Arjuna and he wants Arjuna to win, because already he's got so many boons. Oh my gosh, you can't have more boons to win the war. You had Hanuman's boon, you have Indra's boon, you have Varuna's boon, you have Agni's boon, you have Krishna's boon only. You have Shiva's boon. Like, really, do you need to take the Kavacha for the, like, it was really for Yudhishthira's peace of mind more than Indra as a father wanting to instigate things. But who knows, maybe fatherly, paternal, I'm not putting it past anyone. But personally, when I read the Mahabharata, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel Indra was doing it to spite Karna. Also, if they've got so many boons, you have to make sure the boons work, right? So Karna needs to be able to be killed. With the Kavacha, he can't be killed. So Karna says, you're asking for my life. Indra a little bit wavers, but says yes. And then Karna says, Tatastu, means I'll give it to you. Now, I haven't watched the Mahabharata series, not the old one, this new revamped one, where they have all very good looking people with six packs fighting in the series. I watched only this one episode of it, and this was the episode. And it was very long, drawn out, Karna peeling off the armor, and there's blood everywhere. And yeah. No doubt it would have been incredibly painful for Karna to take off that kavacha. At the moment Karna took off the kavacha, because now it's raw flesh, you've peeled off your skin, Indra healed him instantly. Right? The devatas aren't, they're not cruel, they're not sadist. Like, he asked for the kavacha just because nobody else in the war is going to have a kavacha. For there to be a fair fight, he needs to remove the kavacha. But he wasn't going to put in Karna through that agony of like even you rip off a band-aid, your hair gets in and it's like, ouch. Imagine he had to rip off the kavacha is from his shoulders all the way down to his waist. No doubt it would have been painful, and no doubt he would have had to have immense courage to have ripped it off. But Indra is not heartless. Indra healed him instantly. It's not like blood oozing and all that you saw in the series. It didn't happen that way. Now that the earrings also, the earrings gave Karna strength. Even in the Hanuman Chalisa, Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesha, earrings were representative of strength. So the kavacha protected him and the earrings gave strength. So those were pulled off and Indra took them. And this is the part that's highly important. Indra says, you've given me something incredibly precious to you. Please ask me for something in return. And Karna says, to get something in return for giving you something, then it is no longer charity. If I get something in return for giving you something, it is no longer charity. This is where you see Karna really understood Dharma. This is what's so sad. He really understood Dharma. Why he didn't practice it? You don't know Dharma and you don't practice it, okay. Ignorance is not an excuse, but okay. Karna knew. His answer is so beautiful. It's not charity. What did he want to be famous for? Oi. Is he getting something? If you got it, you got it. Although in this incident, no need to insult Karna. Poor guy. Indra's heart is melted seeing Karna's bravery and consistency of sticking to what he wants and his ability, and courage, definitely a lot of courage needed to do what he did. Because Karna actually knew he was going to die already. Even before giving the kavacha, he knew. He knew he was going to die in the war. It's very different to sacrificing yourself. What Karna did is not sacrifice himself. But he knew he was going to die in the war. That's why he gives the kavacha, gives the kundala. But Indra's heart does melt. That's why I said I don't think Indra was petty. I don't think he asked for it for just because Arjuna was his son. I could be wrong, huh? Please. But it feels like Indra's heart is soft and says to Karna, oh, sorry. First, Karna says, I don't want the world to hold it against you that you took my kavacha and kundala, so I will ask something from you, which was an instruction from Surya Devata. So I'm not faulting Karna for asking. Surya Devata said, ask for Indra's Shakti. Indra says, ask me anything except my Vajra. The Vajra he won't give. The Vajra story you all will know again from Hanuman Chalisa, right? The Vajra is what hit Hanumanji. Indra's Vajra is too powerful for any mortal. So Shakti is the name of one of the other missiles. So Karna gets Shakti. So Karna has this one celestial weapon. Arjuna has something like 30. But this one that Karna has costs the Pandavas a lot. Costs the Pandavas Gatakoch, I've already mentioned. And Gatakoch does sacrifice himself. So Shakti, he gets Shakti from Indra for giving his Kavacha and Kundala. And then Indra on his own says, Indra already knew that Surya Devata had come the night before. Indra already knew Surya Devata is his father. And Indra knows that Karna gave him everything, knowing who he was, knowing it was going to happen. And he's ready to die in the war. And so Indra says, I will grant you the boon that you actually desire. He asked for Shakti because of Surya's instructions. And actually in the war, you needed Shakti, but he didn't need it. He wasn't fighting the war for him. What did he really desire? Fame, attention. So Indra grants Karna the boon. You will always be remembered. People will always like you. It's true. No matter how many horrible things he has done in the Mahabharata, people love Karna. Look how powerful Indra's boon is. When the Devatas bless, it comes true. Teachers like me will try so hard to make you all see. No, Karna deserved what he got. No, poor Karna. Why? Indra's boon. It's like when you get a boon from the Lord, the Lord's grace, when it's I cannot find words to say what an incredible strength or blessing or asset that is in our lives. Never mind devatas, even when our elders, grandparents, vadil, even when they bless us, it's such, you cannot put a value to that. Imagine Indra gave Karna this boon and we in Kali Yuga and people still, like tens of thousands of years later, still we remember Karna. People may not know Mahabharata, but they know Karna. And they will say, but it was unfair what happened to Karna. Nothing unfair what happened to Karna, but you can like him because Indra gave that boon. Life was unfair to Karna. We don't know what all karmas he did in his previous life to have to endure that. But when you think life is unfair on Karna, he gets to see Krishna. He gets to see Surya Devata. He gets to see Indra Devata. His life is not sounding so unfair, huh? How many of us get to see Krishna? Krishna offers to be his friend. Krishna offers him kingdom. We might say life was unfair to Karna because he was abandoned. Yes, horrible to be abandoned. But nobody's life is completely bad. He got an amazing mother. Radha's love for her son was, wow, like Yashoda's love for Krishna, equivalent. And then here, look, Surya Devata comes. And this is a really sad bit again. You thought giving the Kavacha and Kundala was sad? It was. But this is the part that breaks your heart. Broke my heart. Just before Indra was about to leave, Karna says, wait, there is one thing I want to ask you. Can you tell me who my mother and father are? If by this point you're not crying while reading the Mahabharata, your heart's too hard. Very hard to read after that. Surya Devata came the night before. If Surya Devata wanted him to know who he was, Surya Devata would have told him. Surya Devata didn't tell him. And so this much love Indra and Surya Dev have for each other. Indra completely respects Surya Devata's will. If he didn't tell he was the father, I won't tell who is the father. And so Indra replies to Karna, that is the most guarded secret. But you will know the answer before you die. I won't be telling you now, but somebody will tell you. Before you die, you will come to know the truth of who are your parents. And Indra leaves. Yucky. Finally, it's Krishna that tells Karna who his parents are. And he does come to find out. And even when we say Karna had an unfair life, there's definite heartaches. I myself cried reading the section. It's definite heartache. But look how much Surya Devata loved Karna. So yeah, Karna is feeling horrible. He's been abandoned, but he's being so cherished by Surya Devata. He doesn't know it, but he is. Kunti never allowed herself to be happy a single day of her life, even when Yudhishthira was king, because of what she had done to Karna. She remembered him every day of her life. He didn't know, but he was cherished. What I find so interesting in Karna's life is what he wanted, actually he had. He wanted his parents to love him. Kunti loved Karna more than the other 5 put together, because she wouldn't smile no matter what success the other 5 had, which was not fair on the other 5 also. As punishment for herself for abandoning Karna, Surya Devata shone through clouds so that Karna would always be in sunlight. That's how much Surya Devata loved Karna. What was Karna so desperate for? He had. So many of us are like this. We can't see it, and so we're so convinced we don't have it. And when Karna's life, it's so evident. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean you don't have it. Sometimes we need to just have that little bit of faith. For whatever reason, mother abandoned me, she still loves me. I'm not saying it's easy to do. But in Karna's life, because we can see it from outside, we can see it. She still loved him. He still loved him. Karna was so miserable his whole life because he was so desperate to have this acceptance from his parents, love from his parents, whom he didn't know, and he actually had it his whole life. That's why I said, no matter what our wounds are, we need to heal them ourselves. Because only then we'll be able to see that actually we have more than we acknowledge, because we're so busy feeling the pain of the wound that we're not able to acknowledge all the things that are already there. And so heal your wounds. Then you'll see everybody has wounds. Everybody's healing their wounds. And everybody's life has blessings. Every single one of us have blessings. Karna also had plenty blessings. He couldn't see it. A lot of people who hear the story also can't see it. And then when we can't see the blessings we have, we make excuses for our weaknesses. And actually, Karna never made excuses for his weakness, but everybody else makes excuses for Karna's weaknesses. If we're making excuses for his weakness, then we'll definitely make for ours. Yeah. Why are we making excuses for his weaknesses? Because we can't see the blessings that he has. We can only see the wound, and we don't believe wounds can be healed. Of course, they can be healed. The Pandavas didn't have wound. Of course, they had wound. They went through that game of dice. As if that's not a wound. Poor Draupadi. As if she didn't have wounds. She healed. She heals. She forgives murderers. So that wound can be there. Doesn't mean we are bicharo or bichari. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukkha bhave. Asato ma satkamaya. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.